What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We are back doing some of our rugby previews. Super looking forward to this Autumn Nations Cup coming up. The first game we're going to do a little preview on. This is a little series we do where we chuck a game of rugby on in the background and just go through some of the teams, my thoughts on the game, and maybe a prediction of who I think is going to win and by how much. So let's kick off this game and let's start this first preview of the Autumn Nations Cup. Alright, Dan Big is going to kick us off here. Well, seeing as we're starting on the Wales side in this game, let's start off talking about the Wales side that got announced earlier today. So Wales didn't have the best Six Nations on a whole. They lost a lot of games and actually ended up 5th, and I think a lot of people were quite disappointed after their first win that they had against Italy. I think people expected a new Wales side coming from new management and they thought they were going to do really well, and it just went downhill for them. So I think Wales are going to be wanting to do a little bit better in this Autumn Nations Cup. I did break it down in some of my other videos that I've done on the channel if you want to go check them out after this preview. So let's chuck the Wales team up on the screen for you guys so you can see. As we can see here, this is a pretty standard Wales team by all accounts now. Wales don't really seem to shift up a lot of their names a whole bunch. Normally changes to the main team is because of injuries rather than wanting to give a lot of different players caps and get some game time going on. I think a lot of other teams are better, especially in the Six Nations, and from what I've seen prelim to this Autumn Nations Cup, they're a little bit better for trying to get some new blood in the system. But we do have a couple of changes to the standard Wales teams. Let's go at the fronts here. We've got a pretty standard front there with Rhys Carey, Ryan Elias and Tom Francis. It's a strong front three. Wales have struggled in their front three for a little while now, actually, but they're slowly beginning to get more solid. It's a shame to not see people like Samson Lee really being able to get that starting position anymore. But it's a pretty standard forward three for Wales. The 4 and 5, Will Rowlands is in again. He's actually doing pretty well. I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more of Will Rowlands going on. Alan Jones, of course, has to be in there. He's now the all-time most capped international player. You've got to have Alan Jones there trying to keep them going. He'll be a little bit disappointed, I imagine, from that Six Nations. He'll be wanting to see a little bit better performance from Wales on the whole. Shane Lewis Hughes, who I was actually quite impressed with in his most recent game at number 6. Obviously, there is no Navidi in the team, so it's sort of we have to switch up the 6, 7, 8 a little bit. Justin Tipperick is back at number 7, which will raise some spirits for a lot of Wales supporters. Justin Tipperick, of course, one of the best flankers probably in the world. He's definitely up there for one of the best jacklers in the world anyway. Some great speed, some great power going through. I think he's going to do well in this game. Talupe Faletau at number 8. A very good player. I do sort of wish they would switch up a little bit. I'm not sure how many different number 8s there are in the Welsh regions. I think Faletau for me is one of those players that I think has been an exceptional player in the past, but I think currently is not quite at the form I would want him to be. The problem is that there isn't really a lot of other alternatives. I think going from the days of having a Ryan Jones at number 8 is gone now. Ross Moriarty, of course, is just there getting his yellow cards every game, so it's probably better to have Faletau in there. He's a solid number 8 choice, but I don't think there's anything particularly exceptional going on there. Let's move on to the backs. Gareth Davies, Dan Bigger, 9-10 combo is a classic Wales combo that we've seen a lot. I would have liked to have seen, actually, for this tournament, they experiment a little bit of that number 9. Gareth Davies is obviously a tried and tested player. I would like to see a little bit more of Thomas Williams, maybe a bit more of Aled Davies in there. I don't know why they're going so hard for such a standard Wales team. This is the team that hasn't really worked through the Six Nations. They haven't made a great deal of changes. I would like to see a little bit of a shift up there. Dan Bigger, the standard number 10, he's going to have that shirt forever until he retires, I think. Just no one in Wales currently up to his standard. Rhys Patchell is doing all right. But he's trying to just get a bit of game time is the only thing for Rhys Patchell, and obviously Gareth Anscombe still not coming back until the year 2028 or something by the time he gets back in. The Wales backline is looking aggressive actually for this game, which I was quite surprised at. I thought they might have made some new changes here. Josh Adams, Owen Watkin, Jonathan Davis, Liam Williams, Lee Halfpenny. That is a solid back five to have there. Josh Adams, a superb winger. Don't really have a great deal of talk about Josh Adams. He's a very, very good winger. He's doing very well in that left position. He's kept George North out of that position for over a year now, really. Owen Watkin coming at 12. There is no Nick Tompkins for this game. They did experiment a little bit with moving Nick Tompkins to 12 and having Jonathan Davis at 13. I don't think it was quite as good as they expected it to be. I think Nick Tompkins is a lot better in that 13 channel, but obviously so is Jonathan Davis. The loss of Hadley Parkes did affect Wales in the Six Nations, which I think has been a bit of a mess for them. And then Liam Williams and Lee Halfpenny, both wingers, both fullbacks. I actually think I would have made a change here. I think I would have had George North on at right wing and kept Liam Williams on the bench, with the idea that you could bring him on later in the game when the Ireland team is a little bit tired, a little bit slower, and you could have Liam Williams then come on at either fullback or at wing, but they can obviously move on the pitch as they choose to. Let's talk about these replacements. Again, another standard backline of replacements here. Elliot D. Wyn-Jones, Samson Lee, which is, again, they're a strong front three, but it would be nice to see some of those people having some time, maybe starting. Elliot D is impressing me a lot, actually, and I think he could be trying to aim for getting a starting place a little bit more often. Jake Ball, Aaron Wainwright, again. So they've basically gone for a bit of an experienced team, which they're trying to throw on later in the game. I think the first 5 forwards there are very, very experienced in what they do. They know what to do. They all went to the World Cup. They all know what they're doing. Lloyd Williams, would be nice to see him having a bit of time. Back on the pitch, really. I think I would have done here maybe a Lloyd William, Aled Davis combo. I would have had 2 new scrum halves, or lesser cap scrum halves to try and make it a little bit more interesting, but they didn't go for it. Callum Sheedy gets to make his debut, which I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully he'll get a good amount of game time, and hopefully we have such a nice game. Ireland had a couple of really good debutants at the end of that Six Nations. It'd be nice to see Callum Sheedy have just as good a debut for Wales as they have for Ireland. And then George North to finish off. It's a strong Wales team. It's a tested Wales team. However, given their Six Nations performance, it might not be quite enough for what they're hoping to do. But let's have a look at this Ireland team and compare how this Wales team is going to stack up. Okay, so let's have a look at the Ireland team. This is a full-bodied Ireland team, really. They've got a lot of experience in the forwards there. It's nice to see Peter O'Mahony is getting back in his number 6 shirt to get to actually start a game. He's been a bit of a super sub, especially in this last Six Nations. Van der Fleer, very, very strong. Keelan Doris has had a great Six Nations arrival. I've been very, very impressed with him. I do think he normally plays a flanker, so it'd be nice to see him do a little bit more of number 8 work. The James Riney and Henderson combo is, a great Ireland standard. They'll do very well. Cian Healy's back. I did think he had a bit of an injury in his last game. I didn't know whether he would make it back in time for this game, but he is back in that front row. Keller and Porter. There's a strong looking forward pack from Ireland. I can see them wanting to do quite a lot of forward work, maybe in the first half, and then they'll expand it out to the backs later in the second half. I think Ireland will be wanting to get a good score here. I think given that their final game against France that they had wasn't what they will have wanted, I think they'll want to make a bit of a stamping mark on this tournament by wanting to try and get a good score against Wales. Moving on to the backs, Gibson Park gets to start at number 9. We didn't get to see a lot of him, which was a shame. I was really looking forward to seeing a bit of him in an international jersey. He's going to keep Conor Murray out from that starting 15, which I think will be nice. Gives Conor Murray a bit of a reason to try and step up his game a little bit. Conor Murray is, a very, very good scrum half and is arguably one of the best in the world. But I do think he was very slow, especially in some of the later games I saw him in. Just getting the pass outs. I think he's got very safe in that he will always be the scrum half, which I think does actually do players a bit of damage. I think it's good to have competition. I think having Gibson Park there will make Conor Murray feel very pressured to have a very good second half in this game, and I think that'll be a big, big positive for Ireland in this one. I can see Conor Murray running a little bit wild in that second half. Sexton back in at number 10. He had a little bit of a tantrum after getting taken off in that France game, but he's back in at number 10. They've got the tried and tested captain. They want to do well. Robbie Henshaw had a superb game against France, actually, considering that a lot of the team didn't do too well in that game. Robbie Henshaw for me really stood out as being a very, very good player. Very glad to see him at number 12. They've got rid of the standard centre partnership here, of course, Aki and Ringrose. Ringrose still out with injury, which allows Farrell to come in, which will be nice to see him being allowed to get into that starting 15, because Ringrose has been dominating, especially in that 13 jersey for a long, long time. It'll be nice to see Farrell get in. Keenan has moved over to the right wing to allow place for the debutant Lowe. So it'll be nice to see what he can do. I actually don't know of him particularly well, so it'll be interesting to see how well he does. Could be a bit of a dark horse, could come in there against some of the Wales wingers. Keenan moving over to that right-hand wing. Very, very good Six Nations for him so far, making his debut. What was he on? 3-4 tries by the end of that Six Nations. Doing very, very well. I'm going to be interested to see him. He's going to be going up against Josh Adams on that wing. I think that'll be quite fun to watch how they get on trying to face off with each other. They're two very quick players. Very strong players, and his defensive work was actually very good against France. I was quite impressed by Keenan. I think that'll be an interesting toss-up. I think that wing is going to be very, very competitive to see Keenan versus Josh Adams. Stockdale's keeping his fullback position. I think he might have lost his left wing now, poor Stockdale. I actually didn't think he played particularly well in the France game. People seem to really herald him as having a great game, and he scored a try, and I know it all looks very good on paper, but in all honesty, I think he had about 4 or 5 handling errors in that game. Bad knock-ons, he wasn't catching the ball. I don't think he was overly impressed with his game. He didn't seem too happy after the game and stuff. So I'm thinking he'll want to improve a little bit. I think he will have worked on himself a little bit, trying to get better. Going to the subs, they've mixed it up a little bit in the subs here. So they've obviously lost some of their super subs and people like Pete O'Man, he's going to be starting. Heffernan is going to be a good player to bring on. The rest of the forwards, they've gone for the standard 5 forwards, 3 backs technique. So they're going to play a very average game. They haven't done what they did against Italy and against France, where they loaded the bench with forwards in hope to just try and muscle their way through. Connors is doing very well, actually, for them. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing him coming in the second half. Of course, we've already spoken about Conor Murray wanting to have that superb second half coming on, taking over from Gibson Park. Burns getting to make a debut, which would be nice to see him. And the return of Keith Earls, which I'm really, really looking forward to. He hasn't feel like he hasn't been in the team for a long, long time. He had a bit of a downward spiral, I think, in terms of play. I just don't think people were giving him the ball more than anything. He wasn't able to take full advantage of it, but it will be nice to see him get back into the Ireland jersey. He's a very, very good player. I just don't think he gets enough time on the ball, so hopefully that can switch for this game. And there's the two teams combined. So what is my prediction for this game? Well, Ireland are going to come into this game not happy with their Six Nations performance, I think, and will of course be looking to try and impress a little bit. I don't think they were too happy with that game against France. Going from just needing to win that game by 6 points to actually losing the match entirely, and not very comfortably really at all. They really did get beaten. France turned up on that day. They won't have been happy with that performance. Ireland are coming here to impress. Wales also needing to do the good impressions after having a very poor Six Nations generally. Wales, of course, have now lost Byron Hayward after that really poor Six Nations run. So I think losing their defence coach just on the eve of trying to get into this Ireland-Wales game. It's going to be played in Dublin. Ireland have the home advantage. They are looking strong, Ireland. They just need to cut out mistakes generally. Wales' defence was actually poor, just across the board really, and now losing their defence coach may have an even bigger impact. I see the Wales team having a very strong attacking run, but I don't think they'll be where they want to be defensively for this game, and I think that's why Ireland are going to try and exploit it. They've got a lot of experienced forwards there, with new and unexperienced wingers and centres that can come in, show off a little bit, try and get some tries and get a bit of international time in. And I think having them in as wild cards is going to be very useful for Ireland, because Wales won't have had a lot of build-up, won't know a great deal about these players and how they're going to try and defend against them. I can see Ireland taking this game, and I think it could end up being a little bit comfortable for Ireland. I think my prediction for this game is going to be an Ireland win, I think by about 15 points. I just don't see that Wales team being able to gel together from 2 weeks after a very bad Six Nations with very poor defence, with some very experienced players who really should be doing an awful lot better. Coming up against an Ireland team that's hungry for wins, should have won the Six Nations and let themselves down. I think they'll want to do it. That's my prediction, guys. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I've been really enjoying seeing some other people's views and opinions on this Autumn Nations Cup. I'm really looking forward to it kicking off. If you've enjoyed this video, guys, make sure you drop it a like and make sure you subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date with all of our latest videos of all of our rugby previews that we're going to be doing across this Autumn Nations Cup. I will see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.